Hello and welcome back once again to Movie Reviews. Sorry if the sound is messed up. I just installed Windows 10 the other day and I've been fighting with it non-stop and now it seems to have disabled my microphone. So until I can get it fixed I gotta go back to using the onboard microphone. And yeah, so the audio quality may be shit right now. Sorry. Anyway, got back around to seeing some movies again. Again, these are ones that have been out for a while. Over at the second run theater, but I am now wrapped up with the second run theater unless... Okay, don't know what the hell just made that weird beeping sound, but okay. Yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, so I'm done with the second run theater unless I end up missing something that ends up playing over there that I go to see next year. But for the most part, everything should be right here in my neighborhood, so that should be good. So the first thing I got around to seeing was The Maze Runner 2. Which is called... I originally thought it was called the Scorch Trail because that's what I always heard everyone refer to it as, and I think one of the previews even called it that. But as I was making the title card for this video yesterday, because I usually do the title cards a day before or 2 days before, I noticed that the spelling of it wasn't trail, it was trials. So I believe it's actually called the Scorch Trials and not the Scorch Trails, as everyone's been telling me it's been called. So, yeah, if I've been getting that wrong, I apologize. So, got around to seeing Maze Runner 2, let's just call it that. What did I think of the Maze Runner 2? I liked it, but I don't know if I liked it as much as I liked the first one. It kind of fell into that movie filler between two movies type of thing. Like, you got the first Maze Runner, and then, or like, you have a first movie that builds everything up, you know, it introduces all the characters, it ends on a dramatic note, and then you kind of have that second film, which is just kind of filler to lead up to the third film, and then the third film will be the big climax. Unless it's like everything now where they split the third film into two separate films, but that's kind of what this one fell into. It was just a lot of filler stuff that is supposed to take us from the first movie to the third movie and tell like why people are where they are. So as much as I enjoyed the movie, I don't know if this movie was necessary. They could have easily just thrown all the different changes into the beginning of what will be the third movie. Yeah, I don't really know if I'm describing that to the best of my ability. So it kind of picks up where the last one left off. The kids are in the rescue center or whatever. The main character has a dream about his mother leaving him with the organization that put him in the maze. But he's, you know, it's kind of like a memory flash. He still doesn't fully remember it. So they end up in the center and everything's kind of going good at first, and then he's kind of suspicious of the way the people are acting, so he doesn't fully trust them after like a day of being there because everyone's kind of segregated and locked up, so it's almost like being in a prison even though there's supposed to be a like a rescue center. So he kind of looks at it a little oddly, and he wants to go out exploring a little bit, and the guards are kind of like, no, this is a restricted area, you can't go in here. So he's kind of like, well, if this is like a rescue thing, what's restricted, you know, what are they hiding? So him and this other kid who is from a separate maze, because apparently there's been more than one maze, he's also been kind of suspicious, so they kind of team up to go look around. They find out that this facility isn't what it seems. It's, spoiler, it's part of the original organization, so it's just like a branch of it for those who make their way out. They find out that they're running experiments on some of the kids who survive, and they're like, okay, we gotta get out of here before this happens to us, because they're kind of like in a suspended animation, the ones that they're doing the tests on, so they're not really alive and they're not really dead type of thing. It's almost like they're sort of being tortured without knowing it. So like, yeah, this ain't happening, let's get out of here. So they escape, and they end up out in the Scorch, which is what's left of the Earth after, I guess, an atomic war. I don't know. Wasn't really clear on that. But basically they end up wandering through this, what looks like a desert. They survive the first couple nights. There's like a lot of high winds and storms and stuff that they gotta try and avoid, so they gotta find places to take shelter. And they find a place to take shelter inside this. It looks like it's just kind of like this weird section of a crate or a building or something that's sticking up, and they go inside and they realize it's a lot bigger than what it was, or what they thought it was. I kind of recognize it right away as being, again, spoilers, a mall. But, you know, apparently the kids in this world have never been to a mall. They don't know anything about, well, most of them don't have memories, but the ones who do have a little bit of memory from before, they don't know what a mall is. So obviously the war happened quite a while ago, and most of our modern civilization has been wiped out. So they're wandering around the mall, and then you find out there's this group of infecteds, who more or less this becomes a zombie movie. So they're running from the infecteds, and they make their way out of the mall, find a place to camp for night where they're still semi-sheltered. Then morning rolls around, and they wake up, and it's revealed that they're in this giant city that's just decimated. So they make their way around, and they're looking for this other group that the group that put them in the maze was talking about as like an anti-them. So like, well, let's go find them. They, you know, from what I heard, they think they're in the mountains. So they find out where the mountains are, and they're starting to make their way through it, or through the city to get to the mountains and try and find this group. They end up running into another group who are just kind of like outland survivors, and they're kind of taken prisoner by them because they want to turn them back into the organization for a reward. But then one guy's kind of like, you know, I think there's more to this, and he's kind of like the leader of the group, but then like the group turns against him because they want the reward. So he kind of turns against his own group, helps out the kids, they get out. They get separated for a while, but they're supposed to meet up at this specific spot. So we follow the main character and this other girl who was part of the other group as they try and get to where they were supposed to meet up with the rest of the group and reconvene. Eventually they meet up, reconvene. They find out that this other guy they know might have information on where this resistance movement is. So they go there, they meet up with the resistance, and then there's a little bit more backstory explanation as to like why this group wants these kids, what they were doing in the lab, you know, with the suspended animation type of thing. And what it turns out is a cure for what's making the zombies is only in children, because they're immune. Children are immune up to a certain age, and then the body changes its chemistry, and then you can catch the disease. So what they're trying to do is find children who have the immunity, and the whatever it is in the kids that causes the immunity can be replicated, even though they know like what it is, they can't replicate it. So the only thing they can actually do is harvest it from living children, which is why these kids are in suspended animation. They're basically like draining them for as much as they can until there's no more. And I guess they're trying to get enough to cure the world, but obviously that would take a lot more than what they have. So there's that backstory. Then it turns out that there's a traitor amongst the group, which it was kind of obvious who it was. You knew it was coming, but they kept trying to misdirect you to where you didn't think it was that person. But eventually they end up contacting the lab, so the lab comes to where the resistance is. There's a big fight out. Of course, the maze kids rebel, and they're willing to take themselves out to stop the whole thing. And basically that's kind of where the group separates, because they're kind of at a standstill. So over the course of time, the lab ends up leaving, and what's left of the resistance is still there. And they managed to take a couple of the kids back hostage. So then the maze kids are like, you know, anyone who is part of the resistance that wants to go, you know, still do the resistance thing, you're welcome to. I'm going back to get my friends. Anyone who wants to come with me can come with me. But, you know, I'm not asking anybody to. So then it kind of leaves it vague as to, like, most of them seem like they're going to go, but then it's like, which ones are actually going to go, which ones aren't, who's going to be in the next movie, how's it going to play out. And that's more or less, it kind of leaves on that cliffhanger, which, again, like I said, it's kind of an in-between movie. It's like, we had to establish that one of these kids was a traitor, and how they end up becoming the traitor, and what their focus is, what the backstory is, how all this plays together. And like I said, really it could have been done in like a half hour, added to whatever the next movie is going to be. It didn't have to be played out as long as it was, but it does come from a book, so, maybe that's how the book played out. I don't know. I don't read books. Yeah, so that's more or less the movie. As far as the star rating on this one, like I said, I did enjoy the movie, but it was unnecessary when it could have been put into the next film. So where it would normally probably just get a middle of the road from me and get a 3, do I want to mark it down to a 2.5 just because the movie's kind of unnecessary? No, I don't think that would be fair. I think I'm just going to give it a middle of the road. It's a 3 from me. If you like the first one, watch it just so you can get the bridge. But even if you didn't see this one, I don't think you'd be missing much in the next one, because they'll probably recap half of this in the first 20 minutes of the third one whenever it comes out. I'm not sure how well this one did in the theaters to get a sequel, but honestly, if they left it at that much of a cliffhanger, they probably would have been greenlit for the sequel. So we're probably at least getting a third one. Hopefully they don't split it into 2 films to where it's a 3 and 4, or like whatever, Maze Runner 3 Part 1, Maze Runner 3 Part 2. I don't know what the book was called, so sorry. But yeah, so that is it for this one. It's kind of middle of the road, not much else to say about it. It's a point A to point B movie, and you might need to watch it to fill in some of the gaps in whatever comes next, but honestly, if you miss this one, you're not missing a whole lot. So yeah, that's more or less it for this one. You got one more review that I'm going to do, because I did see one more movie, and then hopefully I can get that done in time, and I can go see another movie, which is still fairly early, so I should be able to do that. So until next time, again, remember to like, comment, rate, subscribe, and share, and all that other fun stuff. And until next time, we'll see you at the movies.